The Saturn is home to various different legendary kusoge, an eclectic collection of video game failures and successes noted for their crude construction and unorthodox design theory. Death Crimson, featuring Combat Echizen. D3rd. Daiboken, Great Adventure, St. Elmo's no Kiseki. Like the rest of the Saturn's library, it's smaller than the PS1, but there's some real heavy hitters here. Some iconoclasts of video game design that broke the rules, even if some of them probably weren't rules that should have been broken. Still, a console for iconoclasts draws in iconoclasts. Like the 3DO before it, the Saturn attracted a type of person who wanted to make something a bit stranger. This extended outside the bounds of those within the video game industry itself. 3 names in particular, 2 more associated with classic 80s mecha, and 1 more fresh face, were drawn in by the mystique of the Saturn to make something altogether classical, yet, in their eyes, fresh. Mamoru Nagano, Shigeaki Saigusa, Gabon Shibata. These are 3 of the major names behind Air's Adventure, an odd, some might say visionary, RPG released in 1996 for the Sega Saturn. Saigusa is a composer, initially known for his classic orchestral work. He would come to play a role in the earlier Yoshiyuki Tomino-directed seasons of Mobile Suit Gundam, composing the scores for Zeta Gundam, Double Zeta Gundam, and Char's Counterattack. Nagano, an illustrator and mechanical and character designer, had his own connection with Tomino and was a major figure in early mecha anime in general. His major breakout work was on heavy metal Elgaim, though he also worked on everything from Giant Gorg to Round Verni and Vifam, before going on to what would effectively be his life's work, space science fiction manga epic The 5-Star Stories, still continuing to this day. Shibata is the smallest name of the bunch, as this was his breakout work. The most notable game he'd go on to help create after this was Doshin the Giant, though he's remained among the Japanese industry as a distinctive personality, making many smaller and lesser-known titles across the decades. All 3 of these figures shared one simple interest: the desire to make something unique. Air's Adventure is looked down on as pure-strain kusoge, a mess of presentation and storytelling and mechanics that fails to come together into anything fun to play, like you might say a video game should. I will not state my opinion just yet to avoid coloring your perception, but I hope this very shortened, brief rundown of the game will help people to appreciate a bit more of what it's going for. It's not a good game, but it is a very unique artistic project. Wait, I just stated it, didn't I? Oh well. Air's Adventure. An adventure through the air? I guess we'll see how the airs, plural? We'll see how they relate to this adventure later. For now, though, I have to say, this is a pretty neat title screen. Leave the game sitting here and it'll cycle through some different backgrounds, giving us a glimpse of the fantastical world we're stepping into as the booming orchestral music primes our sense of adventure. They were not shy about having Saigusa's music backing this game. This track is absolutely majestic. First thing you might notice about Air's Adventure is that the name entry screen is pretty unique. Or screens, I should say. I've seen the ballroom one given some flack, but I honestly really like it. It's a bit busy, but there's a lot of cute little details here. As you move this cursor lady around to input a name, this little blue guy here will follow after. Stands still next to him and he starts hitting on her. That's pretty cute. Little cinematics here are also a wild touch. Second screen is much more quiet and serene. We went with the default name on the first one, Henry, so we'll be doing the same here, picking the default, Corinne. You're given an opportunity to change your settings from there, but let's just jump right in. And talk about openings. Before we even know where we are, we're being presented with our protagonist. Oh hey, he's the blue guy. Henry Chaser Vincent. Curious middle name there, buddy. It's no combat Echizen, but hey, what is? Is chasing while your head's on the chopping block? Wait, it's not on any kind of block. I don't think any heads are going to roll from this position, man. You need to set this execution up better. This is just sloppy work. Thankfully, just before he ends up with an axe embedded in his skull... A beautiful princess enters the picture and calls off the execution. What's Henry being executed for anyway? What did he do? They just accuse him of vague crimes. Just crimes. Was harassing the name entry screen lady crimes against the king? Well, I guess the party's over. And with no further explanation of what even led here. Okay. Not even 1 minute later, Henry's approached by a mysterious figure, telling him to come to the secret society. What's so secret about it? Only explanation offered is that Henry could not possibly live in normal upper society anymore, so he's got to go down to the secret one, I guess. You can wander around and talk to the townspeople here, but nobody's going to give us a further explanation of what just happened or why. Once you join the society, you can never escape. Kinda sounds like Henry shouldn't join the society then. No? We've got no choice? Okay. Must be a pretty important place, because it's got a whole unique pre-rendered background going on. First things first, they just run you through some basic tutorials. Combat and dungeon crawling. There is... well, we'll have some time to talk about these systems later. Tutorials are short and basic. Boring. Well, as boring as exploding an old man to death can be, I guess. Yeah, Henry. Strike that victory pose. You won. Finally. My first secret society job! Hope the pay's good. First, I have to go to the fruit stall. The man there instructs Henry to go to the item shop and buy medicinal herb. Our first challenge? Finding the item shop. Where is it? Which building? Why is there no signage? I can't tell these shops apart, man. They all look the same. Well, yeah. The only indication you get for what purpose a building serves only pops up when you get right next to it. You will never know what a building is until you walk right up next to the front door and stare inside. This does not seem great for facilitating business. Took me about a decade of walking, but I finally found the item shop. Tucked right in the corner of this building, the least noticeable location. Okay, take that herb back and fruit stall man instructs Henry to take it to the pub. Guess it was convenient we had that herb on hand. Someone got hurt. And that someone was our contact for the job, a fellow member of the secret society. He explains the structure of things around here. Members of the society operate in groups of 3. Members within the group do not share their real names with each other. The large man introduces himself as Drop of the Sake Barrel. This yellow bandanaed friend gives his name as Knight of the Rain. As our new cohorts, they give Henry his next order. A letter delivery from the noble. Sigo! According to Sego, this letter is of utmost political importance, critical for the good of our kingdom, and we are not to investigate its contents, or else. So, of course, Henry rips it right open. Dear beloved princess, allow me to prepare our holy wedding at the Grand Cathedral. With my power, your world will be as you will it. The Grand Cathedral is only fitting for the two of us. Know that your stubborn rejection may leave your gentlemanly suitor quite sour. I wish not to resort to anything too forceful. P.S. The day of our matrimony will soon come. Blossoms to go. Alright. Delivering this to the front gate guard. Looks like this guy sends a lot of these. I guess we'd better make our way back to the society. The moment we return to base, things get a bit hot. Looks like the society is being accused of kidnapping the princess. She's gone missing. Henry finally opens his trap. We don't have time for any of these secret society games. He's going out on his own to rescue the woman who saved his life. Now we leave the first town. It's finally time to see why you don't play Air's Adventure. The combat. The animation in this game is luxurious, for a word, I guess. There's a lot of effort put in, a lot of detail. The presentation is nuts. The weird side-on angle, the animations and sound effects. On a presentational level, I love this. It's really unique and strange. However, you only have 4 actions to start with, each mapped to a button on the controller. A defends. This is useless. You're not going to be pressing this much. B attacks. This is the button you will be pressing the most. C lets you use an item. This is pretty useful for obvious reasons. And the D-pad lets you run away. Generally, fights in this game are easy enough you won't be bothering with this, especially with how much money you'll be hurting for. Now, you might ask, with these 4 buttons, how does the game keep combat fresh? It doesn't. It's this. The combat is all this. You've seen it. You've seen the entire battle system. Okay, there's a few mechanics they'll introduce soon enough. We'll talk about those when we get there. But largely, this is all Henry can do. It is all Henry will do. It is all he'll be doing. It's all I was doing. The only strategy to think about in Air's Adventure is how to get battles over with faster, because they are so slow. And you will have to do them so much, so many times in a row. Pain. Simple, pure pain. Passing through the second town, it looks like we've ended up in Henry's hometown of sorts. Our boy's a rich boy, a noble, one who ran away from home. Everyone in town knows him, and they're all glad he didn't get his head separated from his body. Guess the least we can do right now is pay a visit home. With his physique, Master Sego possesses a mastery of the bow. If you find yourself on the other end of his crossbow, you're finished. Jeez, 8 years? And why do you have to flee in the middle of a storm, Henry Chaser Vincent? After a short welcoming back from the family servant, Henry comes face to face with his adoptive father, Greco. What's his middle name? Cacciatore? He don't got much words for Henry here, though from something the servant shouts out, it seems he's been a bit more concerned for Chaser Boy here than he's letting on. Coming up from behind, H. Chaser V gets approached by an older gentleman and his younger female cohort, introducing himself as Flog? I Yeah, I guess his name's Flogue. And his wife, Sarah. Having heard whispers of the adventures of the Chaser, including mention of him knowing many secret techniques, they present him with a series of math challenges? Utilizing his knowledge of ancient numeratics, Henry solves each puzzle with ease, which I guess really turns on this guy's wife because she invites him to her chambers later this evening. Nothing comes of this. Neither of these characters come up again. As if Henry's name wasn't odd enough, and as if it wasn't funny for his legal father's name to be Italian, in comes Henry's little brother, Marilo, with a name that seemingly has origins in Basque and Spanish. Man, I do not even want to guess what this kid's middle name is. They say a few words to each other, and then, oh, Henry's already off then. The adventure continues. Okay then, let's head a bit left and, oh. Right. Okay, that's done. Now... Sorry, I just really felt like I had to illustrate how bad this is. Of course, it's not long after that our jog takes us into Sego's little hunting party. Guy thinks we're here to get paid for delivering his letters, so he directs Henry up to a northern cave. Cue the first dungeon of the game. There's, not really anything in here. Well, I guess that's not entirely true. There's a chest. And a naturally formed fireman's pole? Is this thing made of rock? Sounds kind of uncomfortable. Arriving at the meeting place, Henry comes face to face with a giant club-wielding bear. That ain't Sego. Now before you ask, yes, this is the first boss fight. This is the first big test of our skills. How do we beat it? You just hit it a bunch, same as anything else. After bashing Sego's pet's head in, we find safety in a nearby town, holding some sort of festival. "Who will be the son who wins the goddess of the moon's heart?" shouts the performer, soliciting from members of the audience. The two to step forward are Henry and Sego. How'd you end up here? And little bro, everyone is here! Marilo warns Henry that Sego's hidden the princess in a shrine to the north, so that sets our next destination. Now, I've seen this game get criticized a bit for its off-putting visuals. I'm of mixed thoughts about this. On one hand, I think the game actually manages to turn its crude CG into a vaguely interesting presentational choice. Its limited animation and cutscenes and side-on angle gives it a very puppet show-esque aesthetic. On the other hand, when you compare to the original concept art, it's... Whoa, wait, what? Yeah, I had no idea what that was for the longest time either. Apparently, it was some ancient super sword, super gear falling from the heavens. Anyway, Marilo just decided to head up and hand us this horse. Cool, I guess. No horse-based gameplay changes, we just ride a bit, bash a dragon over the head. And now we've reached the princess, as the two lovingly tell each other of how they both felt rescuing one another was their fate. A funny little fairy guy pops out, introduces himself as Pack. Or Puck? Let's call him Pack. This guy is not quite a puck if you ask me. Guy wants to take Henry and Corinne up to a world in the clouds. A sky-high world. Says they've got trouble brewing up there. Henry doesn't trust him, but we don't got time for distrust right now. Just as the princess gets started on her speech about how she's always preferred talking to flowers and birds to talking to people, how people's words are empty while the silence of the birds and plants holds so much more meaning, Sego dimensionally warps himself and his men into the shrine. Henry's a stubborn little chaser about it, but ultimately he has to give in to Pack's offer to go to Sky High World. Better that than plunging into the mysterious void chasm. Welcome to Sky High World. Feeling excited? That's because the air here is different. Oh, so that's the airs. Peck hands us this little force orb and explains that by inhabiting it with a fairy and speaking to it through her heart, Corinne can make use of magic, a gift from Lady Undine. And so it is in this way that we finally get a second party member, Princess Corinne. Maybe now Henry Chaser Vincent will have more to do than mumble to himself. The princess starts out at rock bottom, level 1, so be ready to grind her up a bit here. At least I had to. This area's a rough difficulty spike. And yes, this means combat is slightly shaken up now. Emphasis on slightly. Now you have a second button you'll press in every fight. Corinne's magic is kinda handy, it needs a few turns to charge up, but it does decent damage and hits full groups, which, in a game where you don't actually fight full groups at once, means you can defeat enemies before even having to bump heads with them if you're lucky. She even has her own level up jingle. There is, I should note, one big thing you can do in Air's Adventure besides just grinding stats. Every town has a blacksmith, and the blacksmith offers gear upgrades. Upgrades to what gear, you might ask? Just gear. So Air's Adventure's director, Gabon Shibata, does not like complicated gear systems. He doesn't like fiddling with different items on your guys. As a result, Air's Adventure's gear system is extremely simplistic. You rarely get more gear, and all gear just serves as flat stat boosts. They can be prohibitively expensive, and it's a bit hard to tell how helpful they are. Still, this is a way to boost damage, so it's a thing you will be doing on occasion. Having gotten in a sufficient workout and paid to get some extra iron on their sword, H and K make their way up to Undine. I am Undine, the spirit who governs water, involving not with living creatures, I but watch over nature. Undine gives us the score. Long ago, humans and fairies were wrapped as one, in the same air. That was until they became aware of their difference in joy. As civilization grew, this difference widened. Undine says her distant mother formed a wall between the sky and the earth, a world for fairies and a world for humans, and between the two worlds, time passed as normal. After many thousands of years, her distant mother realized the two heirs had come to hold a different breath. The heirs did not begin with these breaths. It was instilled in them by the inhabitant life. Human's breath instilled it with structure and control, a breath that constrained the present for the seed of the future, and the fairy's breath was one unable to be conveyed in words. And then a giant shadow comes down and eats us. Welcome to the next stage, Fenrir's stomach. I know it kinda looks like hell or some sort of volcano, but it's a stomach. The red lava? Stomach acid. Pack panicked and prattled about how the Fenrir's being manipulated, and even his little brothers ended up somewhere down here. Guess this is as good a time as any to try and find them. Just as soon as we get through the swarm of zombies this big guy gobbled down. And, this thing? Game calls it a Myconito, but it sure doesn't look like Legend of Dragoon's little mushroom man. Fortunately, there's enough people in Fenrir's belly to build up a few towns, so we've got places to rest and recuperate. Strike up conversation with this old man, and he makes reference to a shipwreck inside a big lake of stomach acid. A child's cries have been heard coming from it. Tells us if we want to part the tide and get over there, our best option is to stimulate the secretory gland. Ah, I see. Yes, okay. Consider that gland stimulated. Pass through the sunken ship maze. And at the end, we find a new friend. It's Pack's little brother, the ever-hungry Muffin. He's always hungry. Yep. Where'd we get this manta ray guy? Remarkably, very little of remark happens throughout the rest of Stomach Zone. Kinda just have to repeat this puzzle 3 times with these 3 magic seeds. Yeah, I wish I had more to say about this bit. In the end, we find ourselves a little cave-like passage, but it's blocked up with this icky pink crap. Yuck. But hey, wait, there's a pair of force orbs in there. How are we gonna... Let's never talk about this again. At least we got the Sonic Orb. Unfortunately, before we can make away with the green one, Muffin shoves his face right into one of Fenrir's nerves. Ew. Out into the air again. Our little manta ray friend got sneezed out with us. No worries. There was a nearby town on Fenrir's back that had medicine for him. Everyone waves goodbye to Manta Ray Bro, and gets ready for our second communion with Undine. I am Undine. Yeah, she says this every time. Guess you gotta allow goddesses their bits. More importantly, we finally get a name for the guy responsible for this whole mess. The man, Demos Kaimos, living within his own portrait in the desert and manipulating the Fenrir. He's been aiming to acquire all 3 magic orbs. With their power combined, he would become unstoppable. Good thing we've already got 2 of those. Not gonna lie, it does not seem like his plan is going all that well at this rate. Before we can go off to admire the man's visage, Corinne initiates a little hidden mind palace conversation with Undine, asking about the mysteries of herself, why she can use magic, why she prefers talking to plants and birds. Doesn't get any real answers for it. Undine just sort of tells her to go look inside her heart and grow on the journey ahead, with the support of her dear friends. Sure, I guess that's not really an answer. Short puzzle involved with getting into the portrait, but nothing big, just gotta solve this tiny riddle. Between a flute, a doll, and a mirror, what is Demos' favorite thing? You can get an additional hint that, whatever, it's a mirror. The guy loves admiring his own face. This takes us to the most extensive and, so far, worst dungeon in the game. Deimos' Magical Maze. Starting now, enemies will appear in dungeons, so they're actually kind of like RPG dungeons. This place isn't too complicated, but the encounters, when combined with the trick walls and the slow movement, sure do a lot to slow it down and make navigating it a pain. I was glad to get out of here. The average line of dialogue in Air's Adventure can be kinda confusing to parse, but the big guys like Sago and absolutely, especially old Deimos, Kaimos, I'm sorry, you probably noticed I recorded different lines here, re-recorded at different times, and completely different spaces. There's a story behind editing this video. Anyway, they like to challenge your reading skills especially hard. Who dares peek into my room? I love all people, you know. However, those who intrude upon my domain will have no forgiveness. You, yes you, soaking in your sadness would be appropriate. Oh, downworlders, I'll show you a little something. They get so docile against one who simply possesses power. My business in this world is concluded. And he's gone. Poof. Yep. Long, obnoxious dungeon that ends up being completely pointless, check. Oh yeah, I haven't mentioned what the Sonic Orb does yet, have I? That's because it's not very useful. It's a haste spell that takes like 3 turns to activate. 3 turns is how long most fights last, not something you'll ever use outside of boss fights. In Undine's words, Deimos has broken the wall that separates and protects the 2 heirs, to search for the 3rd orb and to avenge his birthplace. Without the protection of the wall, living creatures from both heirs will be affected by each other's breaths. Unfortunately, we're fresh out of cards to play, so we don't have an easy way back down from home to chase after him. We're gonna have to go ask for some tools to jump down through the hole next to the cliff he made. Things almost get a bit hairy for a second, but Undine and the fairies lend a hand. Now comes the low point of Air's adventure. In some of the magazine coverage of Air's Adventure over on Hyper Saturn issues 6 and 7, they showed Nagano's concept art. As you can see, it is gorgeous, and the CG pre-renders are a perfect translation of its majesty and grace. It's almost kind of eerie seeing these strange and near unintelligible poses and creature designs, and contrasting them with the really good art. It almost makes me wonder what a version of Air's Adventure using normal sprite work could have looked like, working off these designs. Oh well. With luck, we managed to touch down near a royal cargo ship. After helping them acquire some horses in a nearby town, they agreed to take us back to the capital. But one of the horses gets sick, so we gotta make a stop to go get a magic seed to cure it. But Muffin eats the damn thing, so we end up having to use a substitute seed and... So this part, this voiceover is unscripted. I was not sure how to talk about this part. It's like, when the horse, it sprouts the wings, and then, like, the sultan of this kingdom, he appears. He tries to, like, buy the horse, but then the horse talks, and he pulls a sword. And then it's like a comedy routine. This isn't relevant to anything. This barely comes up again. I don't know why this happens. From here, I got lost. For a long time. Air's Adventure does not have a map button. It does not have anything to remind you where you might have to go. So I just went, like, everywhere. Just absolutely everywhere. And don't worry, the boat has random encounters. We are never safe from Air's Adventure's encounter rate. Never safe. What we're trying to find is a guide for a risky path through shallow waters back to the capital. Eventually, we bump into him standing outside this gambling hall. He says his dad told him to settle his gambling debts on his own, so he can't come with us, and we can't clear him up for him. This sounds like the beginning of a tedious quest, but he just hands us a map anyway. Guess we're off. As we arrive at the port we're scheduled to set off from in order to touch back at the capital, an ill portent strikes. The rain doesn't stop. We recall something Undine said. The wall is built from the essence of water. When it shatters, the shards will turn to rain. If we ask around in town, everyone's talking about a strange prophet who's appeared in the capital. He's been spreading some crazed gospel about the end of the world. Bad news. Good news is that we're now free to set out. We arrive without any trouble, but at the castle gates, reading a notice from the king accusing Henry of kidnapping her, Corinne decides this whole affair is her problem to deal with. Henry tries to get her to stay, warning her that he senses something suspicious afoot, but Corinne tells him of her strained relationship with her father, that he told her at a young age she was not his true child, that ever since that moment, voices became unable to reach her heart. I think some of the phrasing in this game gets kind of vague. Henry tries to tell her these things must be related, pushes her on how the fairies' voices surely must have reached, but it's for naught. Please, let go, Henry. Well, shit. Henry and Pax split up for a time. Pax says he'll keep an eye on Corinne, while Henry is going to find a way to follow inside after and rescue her. Hey, the bridge is back up. Maybe we can just, nope. Can't get past this singular invisible guard. They never see it coming. Guess that leaves us with only one real direction to... As we make a stop back at town on the way home, we run into... Corinne? Already? How'd you get here? Why are you so clingy all of a sudden? She urges us to go to the inn, but nothing actually happens if you do that. Sorry, Henry, you still have more chasing to do before you can get that action. Not that you'd want it right now, yeah, if it wasn't obvious enough, this ain't Corinne. Once you've barely taken 5 steps up the road north, Henry sees right through this little scheme. Succubus gets big music, but she's not much of a fight at all. Maybe Demos should have sent a better assassin. You too were beautiful, but nothing compared to the princess's grace. That and the touch of your Wait, huh? Henry? What does that... What? Henry, what? Oh, hey, it's the flying horse. Hey, bro. He brought our final fairy buddy with him, the sister of the trio, Kettle. You must have heard about me from my little brother. Well, it's me. We'll be together a long, long time from now on. Let's really get to know each other. This kind of woman is the most trouble. Oh my god, man. The shrug. The chaser shrug. Young master, welcome back. I see you've brought an adorable guest with you. We're sworn to one another. Without wasting a breath, Henry explains the situation to his dad, and he agrees to lend a hand, saying he's felt uneasy about recent rumors of the sorcerer and the king's lack of appearances of late. Guess it's good we could get that out of the way so fast. The night before we commence rescue operations, Henry decides to spend some time talking with his bro. The topic driftly quicks to... What the fuck am I saying? It quickly drifts to romance. I wish to treasure the princess, but I really have no idea with her. Were she a normal girl, she would send some sign of her affection, but Corinne absolutely just doesn't do that sort of thing. There's no love in sealing all your emotions and glances, brother. You must speak them. You must speak your feelings. Marido, is something the matter? To tell you the truth, I have someone I love. One for whom I would wish to knock an arrow of my love and release it into their heart. But that person, they treat me as a mere child. It fills me with such sadness. If I could pull them to face me, just a bit, to smile at me as my lover. Henry, my brother, even if I had to use the scent of the magnolis, I would. I would. No way. Magnolis? The charming herb? That's the manner of a lowbrow slob. Well, I agree, it would be fucked up. Ladies have worries they'd like to forget. They're tied down by their family, by society. It makes them hesitate with love. Rather than an herb that charms, you should use an herb that makes them forget. Wait, Henry,
The
wait!
The herb of forgetfulness, amnesis, is the tear of love. A drop in her confectionery, a drop in her tea. And at the moment where she's forgotten herself and the world, whisper into her ear, I love you.
Thank you, Henry. Yeah, I see. That was fucked up, Henry. Anyway, Dad gives us our horse back. Let's charge through the castle. Oh, damn it. Okay, second try. Let's fuck off. Alright, we're in jaunting distance. Nothing can get in our way now. Wait, what? Cool action pose, Henry. Next big dungeon. Might actually be the biggest? The castle is pretty labyrinthine and weirdly laid out. It looks neat for the first few minutes you're in it, though, and the music's pretty great. For as much of it as you'll get to hear before... Just in the nick of time, Henry makes his way to the princess's chamber, able to rescue her from her weird floating state and the encroaching flames lit by Demos, with little help from the bickering fairies. Demos used some kind of sleeping potion to put her under, but this is a fairy tale, man. You've lost your right to be the protagonist of this story if you don't know what to do next.
Princess, did my voice reach your heart? It did. Far more than any voice, when I felt the tremble of your lips. My heart, once again. Princess, please, once more. This one comes with every feeling I've to share.
Could Henry's chasing days be over?
We've barely had time to recover from that before a bird drops by carrying a letter. A letter of challenge. From Sego. Let the decisive duel decide the gentlest man.
It's been a while, little Henry. I've changed since last time. The one who joined forces with the secret society and brought the princess close was the old me. Since I met Lord Demos, I've tossed my frugality aside. And furthermore, I've come to recognize my shame in coveting after a single girl. Henry, I think of you as but a thorn in my side. In addition, it seems that you've hurt the feelings of Lord Demos. Let us cross blades and convey our spirits to one another through combat.
It's an easy fight, like every fight. Not sure why he gets a death jingle that's drowned out by the battle music.
Our reward for winning is more words. As Sego rides off, issuing one last word of warning, Henry's father praises him for the excellent fight, but tells us they still don't know the king's whereabouts. For now, Pack's telling us to head back to the shrine to pick up the gear we left there from earlier, so we set off. And who else is waiting for us there but good old Sego?
Wait. Oh no. Remember what that guy said? If you find yourself on the other end of his crossbow, you're finished.
This is it. This is the worst possible Sego matchup. Boy, I've finally cornered you. Fool who rebels against his fate, allow me to pass your requiem. No, brother, all I have for a weapon is this, the charming herb, Magnolus. Please don't fall for me. What am I doing here? How strange. Well, back to work. Who knew that a morally purified Sego would just be on the grind set? Marilo, this is the herb of forgetfulness. How much of this... How many people were you planning to seduce? All's well that ends well. Until Corinne starts talking about her dream. A dream that involved Undine fighting against a powerful enemy. Like an ill omen, something heavy and loud crashes down outside. Upon returning to town, we're greeted with a vision from Undine herself. She basically just says what is probably smart to say, which is warning everyone that Demos' big prediction that brought so many people under his faith, that a large creature would descend from the heavens and crush all those who aren't chosen under its feet, is in fact no prediction at all, but just something he himself is planning to do. Don't fixate on the end, look towards the future and the good people and all that. Otherwise, just a general mission statement for Henry. got one more orb. Gotta go find that orb. Right, that was our main goal, wasn't it? This part of the game is long and wandery, and part 3 is taken long enough, so I'll just cut to the chase. Head down to 2 particular towns in the southeast. One sells pepper. If you talk to the people around here, they make mention of this town once being the capital of a great empire. Interesting, I guess. Head further south and we end up in a trading town. Gotta find the black market and trade the pepper for the orb. And pretty immediately, after failing to enter the orb, the fairies determine it as a fake, and a bird swings by and eats it. The real orb is up further north, in a big floating mountain made of orb soil. You know, for some reason I assumed that stuff Muffin ate back in Fenrir was literally just snot, but no, it's just edible soil. Edible orb, propagated soil, whatever. Without missing a beat, Demos's bird familiar flies in, chokes to death, falls onto the ground, and plays a holographic message from the guy himself, inviting us to a grand luncheon over at San Jeremy Cathedral. No reason to turn him down, I guess. Where's San Jeremy? I don't know. Ask the Japanese language guide I was resorting to by this point. The pacing of this game kinda hits the pits here. You can talk to the people in town, but most of what they've got to say is that Demos scares the pants off them. And so we enter the final dungeon of the game. Yes, there is more game after this, but this is the last dungeon. I wonder if that's why the opening room runs at 2 FPS. This place really is a sight to behold, man. They tried to render an entire empty cathedral all at once, and the Saturn's hardware is paying the price. More like Hauser's adventure. Well, actually, this might be an emulation thing. Can't say for sure. Don't have a real Saturn. Sorry, can't test. Getting through here is weird because they don't clearly mark where you have to go. I spent a while in this initial chamber wondering like, do I have to interact with something? But no, you gotta take these paths on the left and right. Left first. Kettle will bug you to go check the tomb before you go right, so go check the tomb. Where's the tomb? Not the big thing in the center. It's the other doorway. Personally, it feels more like a big green man chamber than a tomb to me. Dude's just hanging out in there. He's just chilling. Once you get that out of the way and enter the dungeon proper, it is, as usual, a confusingly laid out and repetitive 3D maze. Air's adventurous dungeon design does not tend to innovate. Make our way to the end, and we get to bash another weird old guy to death in his... What is this room? Why are there all these doors? Is this like that room from Mario 64 DS? Mockingly referring to us as his guests, Demos offers us a souvenir. The head of the king. His trickery is unable to fool the trained eyes of Henry Chaser Vincent, however. He sees through it as an illusion, probably because the head just toppled over and disappeared for no reason. Alright, enough of this. This guy isn't even as funny as Sego. Let's kill him! As usual, he is not a very difficult boss. Especially not difficult now that we have cheap healing magic. Items are already a group heal, magic is plentiful, and heals pretty efficiently. We might as well be unkillable by this point. Barring any random critical hits from enemies that instant kill us, which did not occur. Dear God, he truly was a devil. Okay, you can't say that's the purpose of the doors. That one just came out of nowhere. It's not even attached to the wall. As they give chase, our heroes encounter a vampire, I guess. One more fight. Okay, still not gonna be very hard. Ah, damn, can you believe it? The vampire was Demos in disguise. Crazy. Just before he perishes, Demos shouts at Corinne about why she can use the orbs, calling her worn-out garbage assuming the form of a human. Insults between magicians get pretty high level, I guess. With his dying breath, he shouts out his true intent, to use the power of malice to awaken his ancient emperor, ZZHAWK. Shaken by Demos' words, everyone has to call Corinne back to her senses. She recalls Undine's prior words to her. If she loses her path, she is to come see her again. Guess that sets our next destination. Green Man! In truth, there is not much of Air's adventure left from here, which might be for the best. This game has really kinda been meandering for a bit now. If there's any core problem Air's adventure suffers from, it is a severe lack of forward momentum. After a point, it feels less like a story is unfolding and more like we're just slowly walking through a lot of loosely connected events. Anyway, without any other directions in sight, everyone resolves to head back to the capital and check with Papa Vincent. But as soon as we step back into the boat, something big makes its appearance. Not only has Fenrir fallen down from Sky High World, it's making its way towards the royal capital. As we sail along back home, we're treated to a sad piano track. Until, you know. It honestly pains me, because this song is beautiful. On arriving back at the capital, we hear the good news pretty quick. The king was hidden away in a secret room, safe and sound. He's given out the order to go kill the Fenrir before it can threaten the townspeople. Little Bro comes in to give some convenient exposition on how to kill the big guy, reciting an ancient legend he spotted on the wall of the shrine. It is written that only Henry, wielding the sword that fell from the heavens several hours ago, can defeat Fenrir. But if he tries to hit at its weak point right now, the sword will lose its power. So we gotta go do something or other first. Okay, let's figure out what something or other is. No better place to learn that than from the people living on its back. This bit is probably one of the weirdest to me. Just about everyone here tells you Fenrir isn't actually a bad guy, that Demos just fucked everything up. And yet we are ultimately set on our course to end its life. Go over and talk to this girl and she just makes your sword not rust. No explanation for how she does it, she just does. Helpful, I guess. Now we must finally go engage in mortal combat with a singular tentacle. Huh? And with that, we've brought an end to one of the largest, most ancient life forms in the world. Riding Fenrir's corpse, we drift across the ocean to an island home to these two massive, intertwining trees. In a beam of light, Undine lifts us up to Sky High World and begins her final bit of exposition. The wall between the worlds has crumbled. All of the airs are mixing together. We've got one way of combating Emperor ZZHAWK's darkness and keeping the world good and free. We've got to rely on the aid of the ancient master dragon, Lightsail, who was once enslaved by the Emperor himself, and now rests in a cliffside in Sky High World. The guy himself seems willing enough to lend a hand, provided we can get the time crystal needed to return his rock form to flesh and blood. So, we gotta get a time crystal. Where do we get that? Fuck it. Time crystals are aspected from water, which means we can make them from a shard of the broken wall. You just walk over to the desert, spot a fragment of the shattered wall, and walk back. Bada boom, bada bang. The king tossed the rock into a pot and we got a shot. As soon as we've de-petrified our dragons, ZZHAWK makes a quick pass our way. Thankfully, Undine comes in and just kind of slaps him away, I guess. Dragon's not in tip-top shape just yet, but Undine's got all preparations to help him back to full health already. Just gotta pass by the tip-top of the two big trees and grab some stuff. A tree seed to hide the dragon's presence from the Emperor, and a tree branch to heal him up. More importantly, we've finally got our flying machine, within like the last hour of the game. Our last step before the final battle, as Undine says, is to go to the foot of Mount Puka, where we got the last orb earlier. We concentrate the remaining orb soil to power our balls up. Yuck. Oh, never mind. She forgot to mention one other last thing we gotta do. We gotta go get a piece of Fenrir's outer shell to fashion into an even stronger sword. Okay, I'll be sure to do that. Imagine an RPG where the last thing you do before the final battle is go fill out a grocery list. At least it makes it easy to skip through everything I have to talk about in this chunk. Jeez, Undine. Again? Now you're telling Corinne to go deal with her dumb dad before he saved the world because he's feeling depressed? Fine. The princess's final... Final? We haven't even seen this guy before, have we? Anyway, as the king apologizes profusely for hurting her, she reconciles with him, telling him she realized it was never that his words couldn't reach her heart, but that she had closed her heart off to other people, likening it to a feeling of living within a gray fog. He tells her how proud he feels of her, how he feels she's grown into someone great, into someone she's always meant to be, and he wishes to support her from here on out. Go now, with Henry. There are odd things about him, but it would seem someone like him doesn't need a norm to adhere to in the first place. In a time like this, most of all. As we move to leave town and enter the final showdown, Corinne witnesses it. The ultimate battle between ZZHAWK and Undine. What the hey. One more for the road. Just before the final battle, Undine charges up all our shit. You know, I think this is actually the first time in the entire game Corinne gets new gear, imbued with the power of water. Maybe she had some other stuff I missed somewhere, I don't know. The Emperor twists the two big trees up all twisted-like, setting the stage for our grand finale. As we touch down, our dragon buddy says he'll confer his power onto us just after we... Oh, fuck off, man. Imagine getting to the final dungeon of FF6, then you're forced into a boss fight with your own damn airship. Not a hard one, anyway. None of them are anymore. Remember when I said the last dungeon was the last dungeon, as in the previous one? Yeah, have fun looking at these concept renders of Henry and Corinne going through a dungeon that doesn't exist, I guess. Xenogears Disc 2 Next Level. Faced with ZZHAWK, he's got no words for us, just staring us down in silence. Guess we're launching right into the fight then. Did I mention the boss fights are near impossible to lose at this point? Hit him enough and he sheds his armor, turning back into the green boy we all know and love. The strategy does not change. I killed the ancient emperor ZZHAWK and all I got was a pathetic 0 XP. You may wish to look away if you have difficulties with flashing lights. And at this point, I'm pretty sure the graphical effect the game is using was something my Saturn emulator was literally incapable of figuring out, corrupting all graphics and stranding our heroes in null space. I actually could not tell if this was intentional or not for a few minutes, and it persisted all throughout this chunk of the ending. Kinda scared me for a bit, but it'll dissipate soon enough. Though we're still trapped in the corruption dimension, Undine appears and offers her thanks. To Henry for acting so selflessly to help others, and to Corinne for managing to open up to the world all on her own strength. With that, she, Light Sail, and the fairies ascend back up to their own world. Left to their own devices, Henry and Corinne have to broach the elephant in the room. They both know it at this point. Undine is Corinne's mother, leaving Corinne troubled. Does she choose to live as a water spirit herself, or to continue living as a human? Henry, failing in his title as a chaser, tells her to take whatever path she wishes. He simply thinks of their journey together as a momentary rainbow. Living my life drunk on myself. It's just about the only way I can live. And with that, he walks off, leaving the princess stranded in Corruption Canyon. However, his brother stops him, asking him whether he really wants this. He hands Henry the Herb of Forgetfulness, Amnesis, and tells him to go use it on Corinne. Embracing her, Henry gives her a whiff of the herb. Considering things finished with this, he begins to walk away. Only for the herb to have the exact opposite effect of what he was going for. With Corinne running up and shouting at him to hold her tighter. Yep, it was the herb that makes you fall in love, not the herb that makes you forget. What a twist. Corinne, long ago my father said something to me.
Men will be as men, and women will be as women. I thought his words hollow, but now I understand their true meaning. Henry, that precognition I had when I saw you on the execution stand. It was our destiny to be here together, wasn't it? Oh, you jerk! Using charming herb is supposed to be the manner of a lowbrow slob. The fairies watch over Henry and Corinne in these final moments, and Undine gives us a speech about the meaning of life and happiness. The spirits love to watch over the happiness of others, but one mustn't forget about their own happiness. This doesn't mean the end of all troubles in the world. As we look at the end, as long as we don't stop looking within ourselves, as long as we have the courage to fight the battles that must be fought, everything will be alright. Because life is fun. And that is Air's Adventure. Do I like this game? Complicated. Do I appreciate this game? Mostly. Air's Adventure is fascinating because there was a lot of talent, a lot of passion put in. A lot of the individual pieces of this game are fascinating. I certainly don't regret the experience of playing it, but at the same time, I can't say you should play it. It's an interesting failure. There were a few interviews with the developers of the game. I am too tired to translate much of these, but one included in the booklet for the game's official OST release paints a pretty raw picture of what it was like following the game's release. An awkward, shaky interview between Shibata and Nagano that's more the two of them trying to dodge questions related to the game than anything else. Shibata would go on to have a solid career from here, working on better appreciated cult classics like Doshin the Giant and Ingot 79 for PS2, and Nagano would continue with his own projects, continuing to make 5-star stories to this day, but the two of them would not end up collaborating again. Final Fantasy VII, predictably, comes up here. Shibata's aversion to what it represented for RPGs was, after all, a major factor in Air's creative choices. In a particularly memorable exchange, he says he found it too difficult to get through. He asks Nagano if he's beaten it yet, and Nagano just says, yeah, after the first 10 hours I got over it. If there's one thing I pulled away from this interview, it's these words from the interviewer himself. There are two meanings when people refer to something as a failed work. The first means it was boring. The second means it was valueless. Air's was absolutely not a valueless work. End quote. And yeah, if I had to agree with any way of summing the game up, I guess it'd be this. Because while Air's Adventure is not a conventionally good game at all, and it's hard to even argue it succeeds at making its core argument due to being mired in this awkward combination of wanting to prove small teams can make offbeat and interesting games that are just as valuable as the ones from big studios, while also wanting to debate the idea that games have to be games, and hey, why can't they essentially be little movies or storybooks, while completely lacking the technical competence to pull off this vision in the way it wants. Maybe because of these things, Air's Adventure is so unforgettable. A common criticism of stories these days that are as meandering and confusing and shoddily put together as Air's Adventure is that they feel written by AI. It's the cheap way, the shorthand for insinuating it to be barely thought out slop, something devoid of artistic merit. But it is impossible to say this about Air's Adventure. The strangeness of Air's Adventure is so specific to it, such a unique combination of ambition, intent, and misguidedness. It's easy to try and imagine a better Air's Adventure,
to speculate on what an Air's Adventure remake could look like, but to reject the existence of the flawed piece of artistic expression we got would just be kinda boring. I don't think I'd want a good version of Air's Adventure, because this game set itself up for failure, was destined for failure, and failed in so many different, distinct, unique ways. It wasn't ever possible for it to be conventionally good, and maybe it shouldn't have been. It's more fun this way. It's truer to its iconoclastic nature, its confused tone, and its place in the Saturn's library and wider RPG history. And it certainly didn't end its creators' careers, which I'm happy about. The fact something this strange was allowed to be created and to simply exist within history is, well, that's how it should be. Conventional failure shouldn't be punished. It's a stepping stone, a slightly misshapen and ajar one. Maybe it doesn't ever end up leading anywhere. Whether it does or doesn't, it brought us a bit closer to something different, and that's always a step worth taking. A step out to see some fresh airs. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. This project turned out a bit big. Not Athena size, but still pretty big. But I felt like it was worth conveying airs to an English audience, if nothing else. Anyway, I will be opening a Patreon from here on. If you wish to support future videos, you may pledge to it. I could use the money. I will think of rewards later. Now I'll just let you enjoy the rest of the credits. You might have noticed I did a lot less funny edits as this video went on. I'll have to learn how to control video size a bit better, but I don't have anything this big planned again for a little while. So yeah, enjoy the rest of the credits. See you later.